Welcome to another edition of Great Health, Abundant Happiness, and Outrageous Love. Mwah. So this is a continuation on our Twin Flame series.
Exactly. Video number 3 on the Twin Flame series. And we're talking about, when you're searching for your twin flame, how are you recognizing that it is your twin flame and not just part of your love journey?
Yeah,
right?
Just another relationship along the way.
Exactly,
Yeah. Okay.
exactly. And I think it's really important to know that you're going to have relationships along the way. Those are so valuable to this journey.
Well,
right?
I think it's key too, because what I worry about when we talk about these things is someone's going to freak out and say, "I need to find my twin flame." You may not find your twin flame. They might not be here in this same life's journey.
Right.
But there's plenty of other relationships, soulmates, and great relationships out there. To your point, so
Right.
I think if you're not sitting in front of your twin flame, you most certainly should have healthy relationships, right?
100%. So if you're in a phenomenal relationship, but you've read about twin flames and you don't feel like you meet that criteria, that doesn't mean the person that you're with is not your soulmate for this lifetime. And how do I tell if that person is my soulmate for this lifetime, if they're not, and if they're my twin flame? That's kind of what we're talking about here. And I took some notes because it's such a detailed, there's just so much information, and I want to make sure that I'm sharing.
And you're a detailed person. You like the details.
I love. So I just love this topic. So, when two people come together, we've talked about this, ready and whole in themselves, it's like coming home. That's when you know it's twin flames. Okay. If it's your soulmate or another relationship, and a good one, a healthy one, when you're coming into it and you're whole, that relationship can still work and even be the relationship you're going to spend your entire life in. And it can be magical and full of all the joys and the possibilities, right?
Right.
But the difference is, if you want to know if this is your twin flame, and I think that some people know they have a twin flame. I always knew I was going to meet Jeffrey. I think I've talked about this in some videos before, but I actually wrote a paper in college about my perfect partner, and I have it to this day, and Jeffrey has read it, and basically it is everything that he is. Even physically, although we always tell people don't get caught up in the physicality of things, because the person may not have blue eyes, they may have brown, or Jeffrey was actually involved in a pretty serious accident, so he may not have looked like he originally looked like when I knew him in a previous life before.
I was looking at myself in the mirror. I'm still a little bit off. I'm a little off kilter.
From the accident.
Yes.
You are. Well, I think you always will.
Hey, one thing I want to say about this too, because as we're on this journey, we're sharing this with you guys as we're kind of building this out. But it's interesting because manifestation, what Karen just said about writing this paper, knowing the details, physical details right down to attributes and core values and things like that. So she was able to call some of that out, and a lot of it looked like they were, I read the paper myself, a lot of it looked like she was writing about me, which is really curious. So when you talk about these twin flames, and I had an epiphany on this today too, about two mirror images coming together. And your twin flame a lot of people say it can be tumultuous because they're showing you the things that you don't like about yourself. Mm-hmm. I'm not so sure. I got to do some more digging in that piece. We certainly have a connection where we're, when I talk to you, I've said this throughout our whole relationship, like sometimes I'm harder on you because it's like talking to myself. It's right. Like we're always very hard on ourselves. At least I've always been really hard on myself. So I talk to Karen as if I'm talking to myself. And sometimes the filter just goes out and it can be kind of harsh. I think I buy that. But the thing is, when you wrote this paper, you're describing a physical person. Now, if you understand the way twin flames work, two parts of the same soul come down into two bodies and come together and are drawn together. So, is it that, I've said this in videos before, is it that we're able to go out and transcend space and time and see that person? So you were already there, and so you were able to write that paper? Or did you manifest it? That's been my question back and forth, but I tend to lean into maybe you were able to transcend time and see it ahead of time and come back, because manifesting is pretty interesting, because that split soul goes down into another body. It is what it is. So as you're writing that paper,
right,
the only thing I can say to explain this, if this is making sense, is that you were somehow able to see out into the future to be able to write that paper.
Well, I don't disagree with you, and I think it's a combination. I think twin souls are different. It's just it's a different combination of things. So I think when you're writing about your twin soul, you're not just writing about the physicality. That's the most minimal part.
Right.
And the only reason that's in there is in the hopes that maybe you can recognize them, because what the paper really detailed were the non-negotiables, right? The things that were in the soul. So it was easy for me to write that because I was looking for my mirror soul, things that I didn't want to give up, things that were really important to me.
But I would say some of those things are gained when you come into this life, because this is what you were taught, and you learn from your parents, and you learn from teachers, and you learn from society. So when you say, this is where, again, we're working through this too. Right. When you say in the soul, the way I look at the soul is, pure light, pure love dropping down into this physical body. So we all agree with that. Physical body looks like you have a certain color hair, you have certain color eyes, you have a certain height, all that kind of stuff. That's physicalities.
Right.
But then the core values, I'm going to argue, core values are ego. It's like, maybe, so you wanted to stay home and raise kids, and I wanted that too. Those are ego. That's not the soul. This is like what's been put on us here. So it's really interesting to me, this concept of twin flames, because I believe we are twin flames. I believe we were drawn together. But this manifestation piece, which I believe in wholeheartedly, we've manifested a lot of things in our life. It's very powerful.
Absolutely.
But I've always said, is it because I can go out into the future and see it already? So that I know, I truly believe what it is. I know exactly what I want. I can feel it. I can kind of live from the end, to use Neville Goddard's terms. Because was I able to go out and already see it? Or am I manifesting it in? And I'm kind of leaning towards that you're able to get out there somehow and see it. Because our twin flames, the twin souls split, came down, went into two separate bodies on this planet. You would know about what the physical person looks like in writing that paper, unless you were somehow able to get out in front of it. You would not know that person has these certain ideals, that soul has these certain ideals, without getting out there. I mean, this is, I'm way off on a tangent here.
Right.
I want to do a whole video on this.
I like it.
But this was our discussion earlier.
Right.
A lot of people say when twin flames come together, it can be tumultuous, because they're two like beings showing each other, like Karen would be showing me what I don't like about myself, and I would be showing her. By the way, that's not, I would argue that's not a soul thing, unless you've got some baggage from your lineage coming along from your past lives. But I think what people are talking about is, maybe some insecurities we have in this life and this planet. I mean, in this session right now, in this 100-year plus span that we're on this planet for.
Right. And I personally don't believe that twin flames have that tumultuous side. There's no drama, and I think that is a totally different relationship when you have, when it's tumultuous and drama with the highs and the lows. What I think happens with the twin flames is that there's unconditional love beyond anything that anyone can explain. And that's really what, when I wrote that paper, the details in there aren't about the things that I wanted to do, when I became a mother or a wife, etc. They were more things from the heart and the soul, things of kindness and things like that. But the point is, I don't believe that you have all that drama when you meet your twin flame. I believe it's because there's unconditional love, you can show those negative sides, and instead of it being dramatic, it's actually painful, right? It actually is painful, because
Painful to who?
painful to see that, because
So you're
it's true, whereas in another scenario your ego might not realize that that is a negative about you. But the beautiful thing is that because you've now come together as one, your spiritual journey, your mission has begun. And all of those things over time sort of fade out, because the mission of why you came back together as twin flames, and there is always a mission for twin flames,
right,
when they do come together in the same.
Oh, without
earth.
a doubt. And we
Right.
we learned this after the fact. We already had this mission. We already had all
Right.
this stuff in place before we started.
Before we
reading.
ever knew what a twin flame was,
Never
we
heard
have
of it.
always said that we
Right.
believe we were brought together for this mission of sharing with other people the possibility of having outrageous love and, unfathomably amazing love. The possibility of that is there for everyone, whether it's going to be with your twin flame or your soulmate.
Well, we were writing the book and created this channel to communicate all this
Exactly.
ahead of. And Karen, I think you're the first one that came up with twin flames. You saw it, and I remember you bringing it to me. Like,
Oh my
I'm so
gosh.
excited. We're twin flames. And what is a twin flame? So, but the point is, everything we read and we study, we were already on this path. We had already gone through all the stages. It was like classic. But you had something here in your notes you wanted to hit for this video. Hopefully we didn't derail you too much.
Well, no, and I think what we talked about is great as well. So, in searching for your twin flame, and the Dalai Lama said, sometimes not getting what you want is a wonderful stroke of luck, right?
Well, I think I look at that, and that's everything happens for a reason. So when something happens that's not right, or you feel like you didn't get what you wanted,
right?
There may be a good reason. We'd always say things like this. If we got caught in a traffic jam, Karen would say, well, we're probably not supposed to be down at the destination at the time we were planned to be there, because something worse would have happened. So
exactly,
it's a good thing we're stuck here. So I think
it's the universe's way of protecting you from bad things. So in my particular case, and Jeffrey's story has another story, but I think he's had a lot more relationships than I did, so his love journey had a lot more steps in it than mine did for us to get together. So for me, talked about this a lot, and I was in a 3-year relationship that was beyond tumultuous. I mean, it was full of games and dramas, the highest of highs, the lowest of lows. It was so incredibly unhealthy, because, and you're only able to see this after the fact, not when you're in this kind of relationship. But it was so incredibly unhealthy because the two people that were in the relationship, we were unhealthy. And by unhealthy, I mean, we just hadn't completed the journey of finding our own self-worth in the world. I think we were young, and we didn't know ourselves well enough. So I always say I'm so grateful for that relationship, because it really gave me a look into what I really didn't want, and what I wasn't willing to compromise on. And there was always a time in that relationship after the honeymoon phase, and I want to make this clear, because the honeymoon phase in any kind of relationship is always a honeymoon. It's when that ends and where everything's amazing. And sometimes we're always trying to get back to that and we just never can. When you're a twin flame, you not only get back to that honeymoon phase, but you remain in that for
Well, it even
29 years right now.
Well, I'd say it even accelerates because as you
Exactly.
come, as you're drawn together, and it's a 1+1 = 3. It's not 1+1 = 2. It accelerates. So I feel like as each year goes by, our life together becomes more richer.
100%.
Right.
I mean, each day that goes by, I feel like the growth and the love, and I mean, I adore waking up next to this man every morning. I've been waking up next to him for over 29 years, and it's just a magical feeling where it grows. And we're obviously past the honeymoon stage, but we're not. That's the cool thing.
Well, I mean, 30 years.
Right.
Yeah, you're usually past it, but yeah, we're still in it.
We're still in it.
Yeah.
But the reason I want to talk about this is that a lot of people comment on our channel and other channels about relationships that they're in, and I can see, and I'm also I'm working with somebody right now who's going through this because the person, their special person, is now with somebody else. And I shouldn't have said their special person, the person that they thought was their special person. And I'm so confident that once this person becomes whole and complete, that they'll realize that was not the right person.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of you that are in relationships, or you've broken up and you want to get back in that relationship, you really need to let that relationship go. Complete yourself. The relationship that you work on has to be with yourself, not to the point where you're pretty much there, but to the point where you're overflowing, so much so the universe feels that and everything gets attracted back to you. And then what happens is, it's like the Dalai Lama said, what you didn't get in that other relationship is a blessing, because it gave you the opportunity to work on yourself, have the relationship with yourself, put that out to the world that you have so much love, you're overflowing. All of a sudden the door opens, and guess what? Your twin flame is there. That's exactly what happened with me. Now, when I was in this 3-year relationship, I thought this is the relationship, and I thought this is the way things were supposed to be. And then I realized there was always a time where one of us was desperate and the other one had what I call the upper hand, and that would flip-flop. That is not unconditional love, right?
Right.
That is tumultuous relationship that's unhealthy. And again, it's unhealthy because at least one, if not both of the people in the relationship are not healthy, meaning you're just not whole. I can't say it enough.
Well, I guess let me just pile on there, because you're right. It's one or both.
Right.
When you say they're not whole, they have not evolved to a certain stage where the self-love, I'm good. I don't need someone else to complete me. I don't need you to do something for me to make this better.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're certainly challenging each other and testing each other, saying, well, if you're going to do this, well, I'm going to do that.
Right.
I mean, that is very unhealthy. I mean, at the end of the day, who the hell wants that? I mean, I as I listen to it, it just like stresses me out. Like, why would you want to be going home to a relationship where there's arguments?
Right.
But a lot of people go through this, but you just have to decide.
To be clear, we argue often, but
well, I don't. Karen does, and
but we always resolve it. So
no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Of course,
we're not saying people don't argue, but we're talking about something very different, where it's this, this kind of a one-up type thing. And I think what happens when you're in that relationship, sometimes it happens at the end of a relationship like that, and sometimes it happens when you split apart. You have this awakening that, wow, I deserve so much more, and so does the other person, because clearly you wouldn't have been in that relationship. You're not giving the right things either. So that awakening is humongous, and again, it opens up all the opportunities for your twin flame to come into your life. And what happens when the twin flame enters your life is just so different. The drama's not there. It's very comfortable. It's this feeling that you've been together forever. You can talk about anything. You know, it's this feeling of coming home. All of the things that were missing in that tumultuous relationship where you actually feel pretty crappy 50% of the time.
Right. Well, I think I was going to say the feeling of coming home is a feeling of comfort. You're comfortable.
Yes, so
like when you're home, like this is our home. We're very comfortable here. Sugar's very comfortable in her little home here. But you know, it's a feeling of comfort, and you know this if you've had a great relationship with a soulmate or some significant other, where you're very comfortable. That's a feeling of coming home, and I think that's you know, a lot of people can have that with multiple people.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a twin flame.
Exactly.
Right?
It could be a soulmate.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And again, you know, we'll say this continuously, that it is not a common occurrence for twin flames to be in the same lifetime. So, you know, don't say to yourself, oh, well, it's my twin flame or nothing, because you could be with your soulmate. And, you know, Jeffrey and I are both, thankfully, right? But, you know, you can be with your soulmate and live the best life ever.
Well, I was just going to say that was the language we always used. We said we were soulmates
always.
until you found out about this twin flame thing. So
Yeah.
we dug in. But, you know, so I think that's important to note.
Yeah.
But is there anything else that you wanted to hit?
You know, the last thing I wanted to say is, if you're in that relationship that I spoke of before, and it's hard to see that it's not your twin flame, because when you're in a dramatic, you know, tumultuous relationship, those are the ones people always say, you got your heart broken and you'll never forget that feeling. I think you don't forget that feeling because it's so wrong. It's such a, you know, there's so much love in the world that to have your heart broken is, I don't know, that you can't really explain that feeling. But anybody who really loves you is not going to break your heart. And so it's clear that if you're in that kind of a relationship right now and you're questioning it, my recommendation would be to let the relationship go. And that was something, when I met Jeffrey, there was no desperation that if I let him go that he would find somebody better. I knew from the time we started dating that he was the one, because it was so comfortable. And I knew that I was the best person for him and he was the best person for me. There was never a feeling, not even an inkling, that if I did something silly or stupid that you would all of a sudden see me in a different light.
Right.
And that's different than these other relationships. So,
well, I was just going to say one thing on there when you said, you know, about the broken heart. You know, what is that actually? You know, that feeling of loss or pain.
Yeah.
I mean, we've all had that, right? I mean,
right.
We talked about this the other day about when you were a young kid. You even had you what you thought was love, and you broke up. You talked about this. So
right.
I think, you know, heartbreak is kind of like, I look at that. That's the peaks, the valleys of the heartbreaks, the peaks and valleys of our life until you get to where you want to be. And whether it's in a job, it's relationship with friends, it's significant others. There is heartbreak. I mean, you know, people have heartbreak when they finally pull the ripcord and get out of a relationship, I think, right?
Oh, 100%.
I mean, I want to
yes.
clarify, because you were saying anybody that would break your heart, I forget what you said, but yeah, that happens just with two good people coming together. It's just like it's
definitely.
not right, so we should probably split up, and that's kind of, I would call that heartbreak, right?
Oh, I mean, I'm not, yes, I mean, I think almost everyone experiences heartbreak.
Right.
And the reason is it's part of your love journey. What I'm saying is that, you know, let's say you're just coming out of that relationship and your heart is broken, but you think that person is still the one. What I'm saying is that the chances are slim that person is the one if you're that heartbroken and they know it, and they would do that to you, because you know, I would never do anything that would break your heart or hurt your heart ever. Um, but I was doing that in my previous relationship, and that is a telltale sign.
Yeah,
That's the difference. That's what I'm trying to explain. Is heartbreak is,
So but you're not talking about just breaking up. You're talking about day in and day out where there's manipulation and all for all the
Right.
wrong reasons. Yeah, that's kind of
Exactly.
it's a little bit of a little
Exactly.
sick.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think there's a lot of issues in unhealthy relationships, but again, it's all because you aren't
Right.
complete and you're not whole.
No, but that's
Yeah.
exactly where it is.
Right.
Um,
And so my recommendation is, if you've broken up and you think that person might be the one, let them go and really work on your own relationship with yourself. Build yourself up to the point where you will only accept being with somebody who knows how amazing you are, and someone that builds you up. And if that person comes back to you and gives you all of that, and I mean, you have to be honest with yourself. If they truly give you all that, not if they come back to you because all of a sudden you don't want them, that's a totally different story. But if they come back to you and they really want to be with you, and all of the wonderful things that are involved in that, then it was worth the breakup, and it was worth letting them go. But sometimes you let somebody go, and guess what? All of a sudden you turn to the right, and your twin flame, man of your dreams, is right there, or your left.
Yeah.
I guess it depends which way the camera's looking.
Right.
So that's what I've got on searching for your twin flame, and or recognizing if the relationship that you're in is your twin flame, or is it just part of your love journey.
I like it.
All right.
Good stuff.
Wishing you great health, abundant happiness, and outrageous love from the cozy nest at Copper Mountain. It is snowing outside. I wish y'all could see it because it's so beautiful and just a full-on whiteout.
We have so many birds out here. They are not practicing social distancing.
They're
They're all over. I'm just worried. We're trying to stay in. Karen and I are conserving our food so we don't go out into public. We're doing our job. But these birds are not. I'm worried. I'm really worried that they're not going to have enough seed. And I'm certainly not going to go to the store just to get seed. So I'm thinking we have to, when we do our shop, I hope it lasts until then. We have a bunch of feeders, but they're just going at this like it's Thanksgiving feast out there. But anyway, go ahead and click off and subscribe. We'd love to have you guys on board. Thanks. Oh, this guy's sitting right